So walking into the site, we're still downhill from the major site and the huge plazas and everything. This particular area is called Residence and Tomb number 56. Some of the bigger houses, because up top was not residential unless you were the king and some high priest. So these houses that are just below the very top were important people. Um, and we're gonna walk through here in a second, and you'll see the main rooms and like a kitchen type area. But also here was a tomb. And for the ancient Zapotecs, death was important when somebody was buried. They were buried with offerings, clay, stone, shell, jade, bone, gold, silver, all of these beautiful things. And depending on how important they were, the more, of course, they were buried. Even today, traditionally, when somebody passes or when you are calling back the dead, you do so with offerings, offerings of bread, of drink, of toys, and things like that. And it all stems from this. So these traditions of death in Mexico go back thousands of years. You can see the hole in the middle of the residence and the patio right there is actually where the tomb was. And you can see just how incredibly thick these walls were and just rooms that were surrounding it. And right here is a kitchen area. It's sunk down. There's drainage out. And right there is a hole to put your food in to keep it kind of cool. Man, I never realized just how thick these walls are. This place was built like a brick shit house. Just beyond it, there's a mound and another mound, and there's just mounds everywhere because there's just mounds everywhere. Here is our first look at the northern patio. This place, it goes up and up and up, and we're gonna go up there. I'm just gonna walk over here to the staircase and show you one of the ceremonial entrances into Monte Alban. Now this area was heavily guarded, of course. Like at Zampa, there were access points all over the place. And so you can see the stairwell here. For one, it's just fantastic to work. And you can just see how it's crumbled over time too. But again, we live in a valley that's earthquake prone. And for this to be here after thousands of years is just fantastic. We're gonna walk around the north area here and look at a couple of houses and a couple of tombs. I'm not even sure I'm gonna be able to get this into one day. As we're walking around and you notice just how flat the area is, we just remind you this is the top of a mountain. And so this flatness didn't happen in a vacuum. The universe did not make the top of this mountain flat. People did. A lot of people, a lot of time, a lot of work. Patio after patio after patio, and level after level after level. Each one just a little bit higher, signifying an access point or maybe a ceremonial plaza. This right here is very reminiscent of the gatehouse over at Zampa. And so I am betting that over here you couldn't really do much of anything but climb up into this area. And right here is a large gatehouse with two buildings on either side that allowed people access to this rear part of the site. One of the things I love about this is talking this through with you is that I get to learn all the new things too. And so this platform right here is roughly the same shape as at Zampa. And if you remember that picture, it had two buildings, one on either side, that were gatehouses or access points for another level up. As we swing around to the north side of Monte Alban, looking at just the northeast corner of the northern platform, I mean, it's just fantastic. I'm looking at that That right there is about 30 feet tall, and just the human capital expended here was enormous. We're going to swing around here to this edifice number 10, building number 10, if you would. All of these buildings are numbered. And this is a great example of the different style of architecture that was used throughout the entire time here at Monte Alban. Up there in the middle, in the very middle, is adobe. Adobe is a, well, it's pretty much just dirt, rocks, and stuff put together. It's not hard like stone. It's more like hard sand. Now, I got to tell you that we lived in an adobe house here in 2017 when a huge earthquake hit, and there were newer houses built with stone that were above us and below us that took a lot of damage, but the adobe did not because it bends with the earth. When this was done, and that house was not used anymore, they simply built a mound over it. They've cleared it out here, and you can see still there's plaster in there with the steps up into this house. But they kept on building up and up and up and up and up and up and over it. And so as they came and rediscovered this place, they actually dug down and found that there were things within things. It's kind of like a Russian nesting doll. And this is an early example of architecture here at Monte Alban. And you see the column. They knew round, but they didn't use it as a tool. We are now walking along pretty much the back wall of the northern platform here, and everything here was about access. You know, it was a very caste society like India is today. There is super wealth, and then there's everybody else. And so this is a highly guarded and defended area here. This is impossibly steep hills, but there are gatehouses all over the place. And then this large mound. Now you can see right here, it's just dirt. But the thinking is that when Alfonso Caso got here and flew over, the entire site was like this. You know, it had a couple thousand years to let nature take over. And then they dug down, and just found these rocks. Some of the things that you're going to see here are reconstructed. Now I'll point out how you can tell the difference. All right, we're at the northwest corner of Monte Alban. So we've got a small well, actually not too terribly small. And then there's a mound on the corner right there, probably a guardhouse. One of the reasons that they picked Monte Alban is this is a mountain that's not nestled in other mountains. This is a mountain that rises 1,000 feet above the Oaxacan Valley floor. So from up here, you had a commanding view all the way around. Very defendable. And they defended it a lot against the Mihik. You know, we talk a lot about the Zapotec and the Mihik and how they were hating on each other for about 3,000 years. And so this was very defendable. So this residence is residence number 104. And when we get to the Cultural Museum and we start looking at the things that were found in different tombs, just remember this is residence 104. Typical, again, is that we have a courtyard. This one looks to be about 8 meters square, and in the middle of the courtyard is a tomb. Around the courtyard, though, you see it is walled with different rooms. And so I'm kind of sitting in one here, and these are all small bedrooms, meeting rooms, and etc. And the far corner over there is probably the kitchen. We'll go there in a second. But what I want to point out is this room right here. So imagine, if you would, you're walking straight into this place, down into the courtyard, and there you're met with this higher platform. This is a meeting room. Again, the higher you are, much like hell, if you've ever been to the Thai temple in Tampa, you know that the monks, the Buddhist monks, they sit up above everybody else because the closer you are to God, the more important you are. This is a very God-centered civilization here, and so there was definitely a structure to where the higher you sat, the more important you were, even within your own home. And so there's a tomb right in there, betting that dude just once he died, he was buried right there in his room. And quite honestly, it was probably rocked over at that point. Once he's dead and gone, there's no more need for him here, and so they just closed it off. Other things I want to show you again is that they had flooring. You know, now we're looking at grass and rock and everything, but they had plaster flooring here. And there's still examples of that throughout the valley. Some places better than others. In fact, right over here, it just looks like poured concrete. It's fantastic. This, Resonance 104. All right, so we're walking up into a tomb area. Here's tomb 113, 114, 118. And this tomb, I want to point out that there's an alcove right there. So here you walk down into these steps. This was covered, and so you had to actually crawl in there, but there were bones right in there and probably in sight. This is an area where there were probably 3 different families and one here. Now we walk just down the hill here. And we come to tomb 118, which is in situ. So this is still covered, and you can still, this is the one place where you can actually get down and walk into there. So if we ask Josh nicely, he'll take you down there. All right, Josh is gonna walk you down.
First step. Quite large. Yeah. Look at that. And you can go down and you can see just how big this really is. And I'm imagining that the roof is done for structural reasons, but you can see these alcoves here. They're quite large. This is where the family would be, you know, as Trey was explaining previously with the first one. The head of the household would be there. Then spouses and children would be in these 2 alcoves here. And for example, it's probably about 5'7" tall in here. So it's like not too small, not too big. Perfect for a good family. Yeah, it's really cool down here. Hand you back to Trey.
You're about 8 feet underground there too.
Mm-hmm.